All right, so the panel has been selected and it's random how they do that, and they give you. And so now we realize that we have very little time. Um, there's some states, like in New York, where they can go weeks picking a jury. They just do it until they're done. They have special judges that do
That
that.
just do the voir dire.
But in Seattle and Washington, the typical case, including like for a 2 month trial, a long trial, is the judge will say, okay, I'll give each side 2 rounds of 20 minutes apiece. So that's 40 minutes total. And then we'll say, well, Your Honor, will you stop the clock for challenges for cause? And sometimes they'll say yes, and sometimes they'll say no. And we'll talk more about challenges for cause probably on episode number 3. So you have 20 minutes to talk to 50, 60 people at the same time. Or if we're doing it by Zoom, then it's normally around 20 people. And then you have to do it multiple times. You have to start.
Yeah, I was going to say they cut it down into
It's like
little chunks.
Groundhog's Day. Like you do the first panel in the morning, then you do the same thing and then you have to do the next day and the next day, and then maybe that's done, or maybe you have to go into the third day of voir dire because you have to redo it. But let's just say that we're just doing it to the whole group. You have 20 minutes. So again, this is where it changes from not really being a cocktail party, and where your ability as a person who is comfortable in their own skin and knows how to talk to groups of people is very important. This is why it helps a trial lawyer to teach and give public speaks. Public speaks is a word. Because
public speaking.
How on earth are you going to communicate with that many people?
Yeah.
You do not. In the old days, and I'm an old one. We did regular voir dire, and that was, you had a box. There were 12 people in the box, and you went person number 1, person number 2, person number 3. And then if you didn't like someone or try to get them off, and they did get off, then that seat would be filled. And then and it was one by one. And then that changed in, I think, the 90s when we entered the Struck method, which became Phil Donahue, who was a talk show host before Oprah. It was kind of his method of getting the whole audience involved. You'd run around, with a microphone having people talk. So that was called the Struck method. And that's still here, except for it's modified now because of Zoom. But with Struck, what that meant was, and Mo had given an example, he had made a statement. The juror said, I hate you. And then he said, how many other people here hate me? And 8 people raised their hand. So you can get this group kind of going, which is what you do want to do. You want to get the group going.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Well, so there's 2 main kind of things that you're trying to do. One is you don't really want to talk to the jurors that you know are beneficial, that you can tell, because all you're going to do is have them give up more information that'll help the other side knock them out. You don't want the other side to be able to knock out the good witnesses, so you just or jurors, so you leave them alone. And so the question is the bad ones, and Mo had talked about deselection. Well, there was a time in the 90s and early 2000s, and actually through the mid 2000s, where that was your whole purpose, was to deselect the jurors because they were so biased because of tort reform.
No, I remember.
Everybody hated lawyers.
Yeah, everybody hated lawyers.
So your whole job was to just do this deselection process. And I was very good at it. I actually had a case with Shelley where, in front of Mary Roberts, where the entire panel was disqualified. We got a mistrial.
Wow.
And the judge tried to rehabilitate them. Mm. And she said, well, I'm going to tell you, if I give you these instructions, you're going to follow them, aren't you? And they kept, one by one, they said no to her face, to the point, and she was a relatively new judge, where she pretty much had a little mini breakdown. And when we had to retry the case, she did not. We had to get Jim Rogers to retry the case, and did a good job.
Yeah.
But the whole panel came off. Now, stopped doing that, because what happens is, how are you arming the good ones that stay? everybody is so focused on getting off the bad ones.
Yeah.
You need to also empower the good ones that are going to, good meaning the ones that are going to stay on, whether they're good for you or not, the ones that are going to survive. You just don't want to, it's just too negative. You still have to power them. So what I'm doing in voir dire is both. I'm three things. I'm looking for the good ones and making notes of leave them alone. So, the defense is probably going to get rid of them or try to, but let's not help them. Number two is to figure out who those bad ones are. And number three is to empower the jury that's going to survive to do the right thing. This is why I say it's so gamey. You're doing that all at the same time. So,
well, and just sitting here listening to that, I'm thinking of devious ways to be even more trickery, which is like, do you take those jurors that you weren't talking to and maybe throw one of them out? Not throw them out, but like talk to them so that the defense may be like, oh, we're not going to talk to that one.
Well, even more so, let's say I have a plaintiff. A juror. She knows somebody. I did this in our uncle murder case. She knows someone, or they did something. They watched the TV show about the case beforehand, or whatever, or they're a member of their family. A small town, everybody knows everyone. You can't find anybody that doesn't, and so it's completely different from voir dire in a small town. But let's say you find that good juror, you're like, they're going to be kicked out. There's no way the defense isn't going to use them. So yes, you're going to talk to them, and you're going to say, well, what do you know about such and such, or what are your feelings? And then that person is going to say something wonderful and beautiful. And then you're gonna have, that'll help you, right? Yeah. What you don't want to say is who agrees with that person, because then
you got five.
You now have identified for the defendant all those people that are aligned with the person that you know is going to come out.
Yeah.
So that's how tactical it is, and you have to do it really, really fast. So, and I'm going to get off here just a second. So one of the things that you don't want to do is have a script and take notes during voir dire. And this is the next challenge.
Yeah.
The challenge is, if you're not taking notes and you're not reading from a script, how are you keeping track of all these people? So here's what I do. I have a grid. I have their names, I have their ages. I have about 5 columns, which normally I'm looking at 2 columns. One is, are they tort reformer? And the other column is something about the case, right? The worst thing about the case. And I want to see, and then I'm going to color code them. So when I sit down, if I didn't like somebody, I'm going to color code them. And if I really like someone, I'm not going to, I already know who they are, but I probably will color code them, and everyone else is in the middle. But I want to identify, all I really care about are the really, really bad ones, because I'm going to make sure later. So I do not use a jury consultant. I am that jury consultant. It's like your whole brain is full of this. And unless you are super organized and have a good memory, like I don't know how long I can do this, you need help. And so in the Ride the Ducks case, where there were, I don't know if there were 6 jury, I don't know how many, but the 4 defendants all had jury consultants. And Andrew and I had none. And what happened was, yes, he did consult with me. This is true. We were able to be so fast because they all had to caucus. And they had all these boards and stickers and all this big stuff that they were trying to fill out. And we were just like, boom, 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 boom. You have to go super fast. I've tried out apps, not fast enough. I don't want messing around with an app on an iPad. I tried a bunch of different stuff. My old way, because of how my brain works, it works really fast, which you need to do to identify who is a problem, who is a real problem, because the defense is going to do just what I just did, right? They're going to pick the one that they know that's going to come off because they're so negative or biased, and they're going to ask them the question.
I was going to say they're going to try and poison the jury with that.
They will, and they're not going to ask who else, agrees with that.
No, they're just going to put that out there so everybody's thinking about it.
Yeah.
While they were waiting.
But
for the next
I'm going to
person
come back to that person and I'm going to say, wow, you said this. And I'm going to say, who else? Who else?
You're going to do it. Yeah.
I'm going to do it. Yeah. So that's kind of like, the mix of this thing is really interesting. It's super psychological. You have to have a really good understanding of human psychology. You have to be quick to track. You have to be, if not ADD, you have to be able to see and feel that. And you have to make connection. And that is the key.
Yeah.
How do you make a connection when there's a group? And it's energy, it's eye contact. Let me just give you a couple examples, and then we're going to have Mo take over. So people that are not comfortable with eye contact in a crowd, who haven't taught like giant CLEs or are really comfortable with a lot of people, will not do this. They'll put their hands in their pockets or behind their back, all terrible things, or they'll hold onto their script, or they'll read it and go one by one. Versus someone that is really comfortable. The best, so there's people that'll scan like a what's that called? Like a lawn sprinkler. They'll just keep going like this. Or they'll look at just a couple people, the lawyers, because they're, how do you do it? And it's just energy bouncing back. So what I'm doing when I'm talking to a big jury is I'm going boom, and then I'm going boom, and I'm landing on different people. And then they're the people that give back to me, then I know, like, I have a connection. That's connection. And you can start seeing like these little micro, like they're going to go like this, or they're going to lean forward, or they're going to smile a little bit. You start to, this stuff that you can't hear it. You have to observe it and feel it. And that is what a lot of jury consultants do, is they're more psychological. They can pick up on that stuff. Most lawyers are just really, really focused on being correct and winning a case. So they can't really do that. But it's superhuman connection. And you're building that connection, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
And you're not running away from it. And you're being non-judgmental. Because that's how you build a connection. It's just hi, I see you, and I respect you. And maybe we don't feel the same way, but that's okay. I respect you. Tell me, please share with me. We really want to know. We respect you. We're not going to judge you. Your opinion is your opinion, and it's worthy. That's what we're doing. Mo.
I mean, I learned how to do voir dire through bartending.
There, can't get any better than that.
I mean, really, all I do is like, it's as if I'm back in New York, I'm behind a bar and getting people to talk to me and serving them. I'm being, it's a service-oriented task. And I like to really establish ground truth sometimes with juries. And I'm like, what I say to them sometimes is, look, this is actually a safe space. What we want to know is we want to know how you really feel, because both of us have a right to have a fair case, a fair assessment of the facts. And the only way we can do that is that if we're honest with each other. And I sometimes start with an act of honesty. Sometimes, not all the time. One of the things I do is that I say, I grew up in a home with domestic violence. I could not be on a case that involves domestic violence. And it's that I just could not be totally impartial to both sides, because I've too much emotionally invested in the event. And so I share that with you.
Can we pause?
Yeah.
Because this is like one of the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
So for people watching, like what Mo's saying right now is probably one of the most important things you can do in voir dire. And Oprah would say you have to give to get.
Yeah.
So sorry for interrupting, but I just want people to know, like, I got chills when you started doing it, because that is so important.
Yeah. And so you share that, and you say, and I share that because I want to tell you that it's important that you're honest. And I lay that out. I say, is there anybody, you have a general sense of what this case is about? Because they're told generally what the case is about. They're not given specifics, that feel that they just can't be that fair. And I have never had somebody not raise a hand.
Can you tell us, like, you call it an act of honesty, but it's more than an act of honesty. An act of honesty is like, I'm wearing black socks today.
Yeah.
What is that? It's more. It's, yes, Mike. Mike just raised his hand, and let me just say.
No, it's
that,
5
that-
minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, but he did raise his hand, and
Yeah.
the judge in my last status conference, Rory Lead, raised his hand, and she said, "We're not in kindergarten. You don't have to raise your hand."
that's
I
funny.
died.
That's funny. That's funny.
Because I also will raise my hand sometimes, but when she said that anyway, what is it? It's not just an act of honesty.
How would you say it? Because that's the way I think about it. I just be like, being honest.
It's being vulnerable.
Oh, being vulnerable. Yeah, that's fair.
It is more vulnerable than honest.
Yeah.
It is, because they could just think you just made that up.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe you did. I mean, some people say weird things.
Yeah.
I've heard people say weird things.
Well, and I think you got to be a really good actor to do
Who
that.
would want to make up that, right?
No one.
Yeah.
That's why it's a personal
Yeah.
vulnerability issue. It's literally giving a piece of, even though it's speak the truth, it's, for me, it's speak from your heart.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like you're giving them an intimate moment of your personality.
Yeah.
And that kind of, it's like becoming a friend, sort of, a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
But you can overdo it,
Yes.
and people can think it's gamey and manipulative.
Yeah. So you do that. I do that because I'm being honest. And what ends up happening is that I immediately start a conversation about someone, usually steps up and says something very compelling about their past.
But you're still not taking credit for what you're doing. You just keep calling it being honest. You're underestimating what you're doing,
Well,
which is giving a piece of a past that was painful for
Yes.
you, and that made you have feelings of insecurity and angst, and has had lifelong implications for you.
Yes.
You shared that with total strangers.
I did.
So you're minimizing what you do, because I think, and the reason I'm pushing you on this is because A, it's so important, but B, it's also so rare that people really will do that.
Yeah.
It's rare because people think if you're vulnerable, you're weak.
Yeah.
Some people do. What I think about that is that most people will react with compassion, I think, and feel closer to you. And I also think that when you do stuff like that, people will feel more for what they're then thinking about in the case.
The feedback I get, because my strategy in Voir is to understand thinking styles. I want to know how people think. And the only way I know how people think is when they speak about themselves. Their process thinking styles. I mean, there are engineer-minded men and women who think garbage in, garbage out. You can tell that's how their logic conversationally goes. And there are people who are much more, I would say, like poetic. And they speak more in a poetic style. And so when you disclose something, and I'll adopt what you're saying, is that I gave a part of myself to them.
You did.
And I was being vulnerable. And I watch how
Oprah says
to
you
get, gotta give.
You got to give to get.
Yeah. So you do that, and then you start to see that, and then somebody gives back, and then you hear a compelling story, and then you thank them. I always say, thank you for sharing that. And then
Wait, pause.
Yeah.
True stories, multiple times. And I'll just tell you one. So the defense lawyer is talking to a juror. And the juror says, I'm really uncomfortable about this case because my mother died from medical negligence.
Yeah.
And the lawyer says, okay, thank you, and goes to the next person.
Yeah. Oh.
Or doesn't
He just
say
said
thank
that
you
his
and
mother
goes-
died, and they just went,
And-
"Whoop, okay, thanks."
Or again, I mean, these come right back when I'm thinking about it. Another guy says, my daughter was involved in a terrible car crash, and she didn't survive. Normally it involves death or something terrible. And the defense lawyer didn't even say thank you. Maybe they did. They just went to the next person. Yeah. And even though I am against that defense lawyer, my heart just sinks for us as lawyers or the process because it's such a failure. Because this is a human process, and it is so important. If somebody says something like, my father died, my mother died, my child died, you go, how are you feeling? Thank you for sharing. That must have been horrible. Are you doing okay? Do you think that this is a case that you could sit through? And normally they're already at the point of like they're already sick. Like they want to get out of there so badly.
Yeah.
And you have to do that because you're a human being, number one. But number two, and sometimes I hate to say these things because it sounds like we're so manipulative.
Yeah.
But it's our job. We're doing a job. Our job is to protect our client and to advance their interests. So when you are a compassionate attorney and you're following up with someone who said their parent or child died because the defense lawyer didn't, or for any reason, the other jurors are watching you do that.
Oh, I mean, when you make a promise to them that this is a safe space, the fact that the defense lawyer did not follow up signaled to the rest of the jury this is not a safe place, because left the juror hanging after being honest about something that happened to them. And everybody watches. When you're doing voir dire, all the eyes are on you. And so your physical presence and how you're connecting with the juror. And so the technique I was talking about, the being vulnerable, giving to get, that Karen describes, which is better than what I was saying.
Well, I mean,
it's
isn't
better.
That always how it happens.
It always works that way.
I'm always right.
She always describes things better than I do. Is that
Just kidding.
I turn what that juror said, I acknowledge what they've disclosed, and I say, how does anybody, what are some feelings people have about what this juror just shared? And I had a juror say, I thought that was incredibly brave. Mm-hmm. I said, well, can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that? And then what ends up happening is that what I think the objective of a voir dire is, so I say the voir dire itself I don't think makes or breaks a case, is to create some level of camaraderie and stewardship between the jurors, that they are there and they're going to do something incredible, that they're there to do something very special, and you empowering them that what they're going to do is very important and it's going to involve very serious things. Because that's when they get into the jury room and they deliberate. If you have done your job, and we'll talk about this next, is how they get into the deliberation room. To me, Karen, I think it is the thinking style. It is how they think and how they speak about things that's going to make or break the case.
Okay, we got to wrap this one up and come
Well,
back
I disagree.
on the next one.
So, and we've done voir dire together, and he's more, you're more logical than I am. I'm more intuitive and heart-based.
What? I was vulnerable.
No,
I thought it was more heart-based
no.
there was no logic.
I really enjoy doing voir dire with Mo because having the two different perspectives, our styles are very similar. But he is looking more for the brain logic. I'm looking for the heart logic, which is not logic. I'm very intuitive based.
Okay, so the next part, let's talk about us doing the voir dire because I want to start that one.
What?
Yes.
Okay.